So, engine caught fire at about 5,800 feet. Let's talk about exactly what happened. For those of you who don't know, I was in a plane crash in April of 2025 in a turbo Cessna 210. This is the full story. Started off, there's three people in the plane. It was me, another pilot who was a young pilot, first time flying this type of aircraft, in the passenger seat, and then in the back there was a passenger for the ride. So we took off out of Fayetteville Drake Field Airport. We were headed to West Helena, Arkansas. So we climbed up to 5,500 feet, and it was a little bit bumpy that day. So we decided let's go up to 7,500 feet, see if it's a little bit smoother. Somewhere in the climb, around 5,800 feet or 5,700 feet, somewhere, best I can remember, we noticed the alternator light came on. We followed procedures, cycled it off, and then turned it back on, see if it helped. Didn't help, so we just turned it back off. And we decided at this point we were only about 15 miles away from Drake Field Airport. We just decided let's go back, get a different airplane, and complete our mission. As soon as we started to turn around, I kind of felt the engine cough. And by the time we had done 180 and were faced back towards Drake Field, smoke began to enter the cockpit. Smoke first came in on the left side of the cockpit underneath the dash. That's when panic began to sink in. Immediately, the passenger in the back began to basically continuously ask what was happening. I looked at the other pilot, and I said, "You deal with her," and took initiative to try and calm her down so we could handle the situation. My first thought was electrical fire, so I killed all the power with the master switch, and it didn't help. And just, I guess, based on the smell and kind of the nature of the smoke, I didn't have a feeling that it was electrical. Turned the avionics back on so I could uh, call into the air traffic control and tell them what was happening. Normal procedure, and when you have fire or smoke, is to emergency descend down, and basically wherever you end up when you get down is where you end up. Well, in this situation, there was nowhere good to put the plane down. We were looking for a field, looking for anywhere. We were over mountainous terrain. It just was not a good place to put the airplane down. And so I was trying to milk as much of the engine as I could. So from that point of 15 miles to 5 miles, we continuously had power loss, just basically had partial power. I could see fire in between the visor of the avionics and the windshield, and there was smoke obviously associated with that. Oil was spewing out on the windscreen. We could see it. Had oil all down my arm because I was trying to kind of have my arm out the window, trying to breathe basically. And it was so close on whether we were going to make it by gliding into the field that I told the other pilot to, hey, let's close our windows. We can't afford the drag. So we closed them for a minute, and it just was not going to work. We couldn't breathe. So we had no other choice but to open the windows back up. Killed the mixture, turned off fuel, tried to do everything I knew to do and could amidst the chaos that was happening. At 5 miles, the prop completely stopped windmilling, totally locked up, and we were just a glider at that point. I flew the airplane, held best glide all the way to the ground. We were maybe 100 feet from the trees coming over the ridge into Drake Field, on fire, no engine. And I waited to the last second to drop the gear or the flaps because I couldn't afford the extra drag, and it was just that close. So I was essentially over the numbers by the time I threw the flaps out, the gear out. The flaps came down, the gear unlocked, but they did not lock down. So we landed essentially gear up, and it was pretty smooth at first. We were just going down the runway, and then I think one side of the landing gear collapsed. We ended up on one wing, and that veered us pretty aggressively off into the grass where we came to rest. We basically finished cleaning up the airplane, turning off fuel, turned everything off, and hopped out immediately. I helped the passengers out, and that was it. So obviously there was an NTSB full investigation. They still have not released the full report. If you're interested in the preliminary report, I'll put it up on the screen. You can read it. So I'm not 100% sure what happened exactly. I do know at one point there was a very extreme, basically explosion, it felt like, where I believe this happened, which is a rod got thrown through the top of the engine block. After everything, this is just thinking back and looking back, I feel so grateful and thankful and blessed. We made it back to the airport. The authorities were there within 2 minutes. By the grace of God, we made it. We glided in. We survived the smoke, the flames, everything. And I'm able to be here and tell that story today. So if you enjoyed that story, if you have any other questions, comment them down below. Like, comment, subscribe, and see you in the next one. Thanks.